Hi guys. Okay, we're back with Unit 16, the endocrine system, and this is it's kind of a funny system where you have organs kind of spread out all over the body. It's kind of unique to what we've talked about before, and so we're going to go through and talk about some of the parts. But before we get to that, it is the second major control system in your body. It's behind your nervous system. Your nervous system works much more on kind of immediate response, and this needs to happen now, and very quick, release of information to cause movement or whatever it is. Your endocrine system is also telling organs or parts of your body to do certain things, but it can sometimes be a lot slower, and this is because your endocrine system functions by releasing hormones into your bloodstream. And sometimes they have to travel a ways to get from, your pituitary gland up in your brain all the way down to wherever. And so, it's not horribly long, but it is definitely a difference between the nervous system and the endocrine system. Um, Also with the endocrine system, those hormones are a chemical signal. And so you don't have, with the nervous system, we have the like electrical synapses and those kinds of things. Hormones are strictly chemical. And so they cause some kind of change in their target organ. And that's where you get, the production of, whatever it is that they're telling your body to do. Okay. So hormones, like I said, these are chemicals that are produced in one area of the body. Just kind of depends. Some in the brain, some in the adrenal glands down by your kidneys, some in your reproductive organs. But they are carried to other parts of the body in your blood. And they work to do 7 main things. They regulate your water balance, which is hugely important. We don't really think about it, but it's a big deal to have your water balance because it helps with blood pressure and the right level of nutrition and all kinds of things in there. Your hormones also regulate your ability to reproduce, to produce egg or sperm, and those kinds of things. And then also is particularly in a female's body, also in her ability to nourish that child as it is growing in her uterus. Growth and development, there's the human growth hormone that's huge in the development, and sometimes that's just physical features that are developing. Blood pressure is hormone related. Cellular metabolism is hormone related. Your energy balance, because that of course goes along with metabolism, and then also the mobilization of your body's defenses. So it is almost like it's also part of your immune system. So it's got it's kind of got a lot going on and touches on a lot of other systems and kind of helps everything to run smoothly. There are amino acid based hormones, which is the larger group that your body will produce in the organs. And then you also have the steroids, and these are synthesized from lipids. So your body makes these. You have natural steroids in your body. These are quite common in like reproductive hormones. Okay, so now the hormone actions. First of all, where does this take place? The major hormones go all throughout the body, all tissues. Because of the blood traveling through them come in contact with hormones, but they only influence target cells. And those target cells have specific protein receptors that recognize the hormone and then take it in. And so it can go right past another organ, and if the receptors aren't there, it has no effect. And this target cell can be activated by several different things. The blood levels of the hormone, if they're high enough, the cell will start taking in the number of receptors on the cell, and then also the affinity or kind of the match between the hormone and the receptor. And so it's very, very well regulated. You don't want a hormone to go into the wrong cell because it could cause problems there. So your body has several ways of you kind of making sure that all works out. And then what are they doing? What's the action? They are working to increase or decrease normal cell processes. So if you need more of this, it'll kind of ramp that up. If you need to tone it back a little bit, it'll slow it down. Hormones are produced in very small quantities. As a matter of fact, your endocrine system, if you gathered up all the organs that make up your endocrine system, it would weigh way less than a pound. Like you have just tiny little bits, or the organs themselves are very tiny, and then they produce very small amounts of hormones. Once you don't need it anymore, it's filtered out of your blood by kidneys, or it can be deactivated in the liver, and your body just will kind of clean it all out. And there's, like I said, lots of kind of checks in there, but your hormone levels are very closely regulated to maintain homeostasis. And remember, homeostasis affects all kinds of things. I've already kind of listed some of them with this, but blood pressure, pH level, core temperature, all those kinds of things. So these do a lot in terms of making your system as a whole run smoothly. And if one of them is out of whack, it can have, in some cases, really serious side effects. In some cases, you just don't feel that great that day. But very, very important to kind of keep you going. Okay, so we're going to go through some of the major endocrine glands. We're going to start with the pituitary gland. I have a picture of it on the next page, but what I've done is I've listed the gland and then some of the hormones that they produce and kind of what they do. Okay, so you've got the thyroid stimulating hormone, that's the TSH, and it stimulates your thyroid gland, which is in your throat, to produce thyroxine, and that helps with your metabolism. Those of you who have had I can't remember, like if you have a thyroid problem, this is what they are testing for. They're trying to see your levels of TSH. And so that's a big one on metabolism. So low energy or weight gain or weight loss or this is typically one that they would check for. Then the adrenocorticotropic hormone, say it fast, ACTH, stimulates the adrenal glands, those are sitting down on your kidneys, to produce cortisone. This helps you deal with stressful situations. It also helps your immune system to get going. It helps with inflammation levels, your just overall behavior. That's a big one. It covers a lot of things, and if it is unbalanced, sometimes that might mean that you over respond to certain things, like behaviorally. So you may, your emotions may feel somewhat out of control. Those kinds of things, I don't know for sure, but I would assume that a lot of antidepressants try and kind of do some of this to just help regulate like stress or anxiety medicine, I should have said. And so anyway, so that's a big one. Then you have a couple that have to do with development of gametes, so part of like the reproduction system. You have the follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and the luteinizing hormone, LH. So these big ones are development of gametes. In females, this helps with ovulation, so the release of an egg, and then the development of the corpus luteum. That is a part in the egg that grows and kind of expands, and when it's a big enough size, the egg is released and up into kind of breaks out of there and goes on up into the fallopian tubes, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then in males, the FSH helps to stimulate the production of testosterone, or the steroids that lead to testosterone. You have antidiuretic hormone, ADH, stimulates the reabsorption of water from your kidneys. And so this helps you to stay hydrated, water levels, blood pressure, all that stuff. Okay, so then real quick, prolactin and oxytocin, these are both just in females. The prolactin deals with milk production during and then after pregnancy. It starts pretty early in pregnancy. Your body starts to work on your mammary glands and the milk ducts and all that kind of stuff so that you're ready to nurse a child after your pregnancy. And then oxytocin is helps with contraction of the uterus for birth, and so it is kind of like a muscle stimulator also. It also has a lot to do with the letdown of milk for nursing. So there's a big tie between the uterus and the breasts as far as that goes. And so it's one of the things that they say the reason that breastfeeding might help your uterus tighten up faster, is because that helps with kind of the muscle control there. Anyway, now the pituitary gland. So there it is. So there's a person's brain. You've got the cross section. And that little kind of yellow speck in there. Sorry, I guess I could put my glasses on. I look like a really old person looking at the computer screen. Yeah, with that little tiny kind of yellowish green speck in there, that's the pituitary gland, and it kind of hangs down, sits down, kind of in a little cavity indentation, and this is the master gland. This one controls a lot of things that might either lead to the release of more hormones from another gland, or releases the hormones that actually go on and affect, good grief, a certain part of the body. Okay, the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland sits right around, so here's your larynx, so your voice box, so it's kind of right in this part of your throat. And the hormones, we've got thyroxine and then triiodothyronine, and these both help regulate your metabolism. And so they, as they are released, they help your body break down food faster, to burn it for energy, get the glucose in for the ATP production. Also, your thyroid gland is responsible for calcitonin, and this stimulates the movement of calcium from the blood into the bone tissue. This is one typically, and you see this with age for sure, with metabolism, but also with the calcium movement. Your body tends to produce less of these hormones, and so you do see your metabolism slowing down. You see weight gain, and all those kinds of stuff that they talk about as you get older. Same thing with the calcitonin, although it's usually a little bit later. But your bones start to get a little thin, and it's because your hormones are not telling it what to do anymore, or not as firmly telling them, I guess you would say. And so that's where you see people developing osteoporosis and, taking calcium supplements and all that kind of thing. All right, so now then you also have right there the parathyroid hormone. So the yellow spots, they're embedded in kind of the underside of the thyroid gland, and they also help stimulate an increase in blood calcium. And so they kind of work against the calcitonin. And so that, again, it's a homeostasis thing. They're trying to maintain certain levels. Okay, the pancreas. So we've talked about this. The pancreas does multiple things, but one of the things it does is produce insulin and glucagon. And they sometimes are called beta cells and alpha cells. Insulin stimulates the movement of glucose from the blood to the liver and muscles, so it decreases your blood sugar level. If you're diabetic, your body doesn't make enough insulin, and so a lot of times your blood sugar just goes through the roof, and you have all kinds of symptoms and don't feel good because of it. Sometimes though, your blood sugar gets too low, and the problem with someone who is diabetic is it's hard to regulate that kind of manually by injecting insulin, or with an insulin pump even. Those of us who aren't diabetic have no idea, because our bodies naturally do such a good job of leveling it out that we don't really think about it. But sometimes when you take insulin, you also have to take some kind of glucagon, because sometimes it'll drop your blood sugar too much, and then you have to do the reverse and get more sugar back into your blood. And remember, by sugar we're talking about glucose. And so anyway, so this takes place in your pancreas, in the islets of Langerhans, and so there's little areas within your pancreas. Super duper important. One of probably the major health issues in the U.S. is diabetes, and depends on the person. Sometimes you are born with some sort of deficiency in your body's ability to make insulin. And some people, it happens usually at a fairly young age, under the age of 10, I believe, that you realize that you are diabetic. Sometimes it is brought about, and that's type 1 diabetes. Sometimes it's brought about by diet and lifestyle, and you kind of damage your pancreas, and so it no longer is able to produce and then regulate your bloodstream or your blood sugar, and that's type 2 diabetes. Okay, your adrenal glands, these sit right on top of your kidneys, and they help with your stress hormones. Epinephrine and norepinephrine, which adrenaline and noradrenaline, this helps your body overcome stressful situations. So, like when like your hormones kind of kick in, or, you handle things different ways, this is the act of your adrenal glands. And so again, these are sometimes things that we take medication for. These are ones that are mimicked sometimes by, like just like illegal drugs, help you just, feel better about things. And so they sometimes will mimic the results in your body. Glucocorticoid is cortisone. This helps with carb metabolism, so it helps you break down specific types of carbon molecules, again, energy, metabolism type things. And then you have your mineral corticoids, and these help reabsorb water from the kidney tubules. And this one is, your kidneys are right there, so obviously this one is pretty close, but a lot of them are traveling kind of far distances in your body to their target cells. Okay, now on to the ovaries. So obviously we're talking about a female here. The ovaries release estrogen and progesterone, and estrogen helps to stimulate growth and then also development of secondary sex characteristics. So this can be like body hair, the development of breasts, the start of your period, your menstrual cycle. Progesterone stimulates the development of the uterus for possible pregnancy and growth of mammary glands. So with progesterone, the levels of progesterone kind of build up as you go through your period cycle, 3-monthly cycle, and this is what helps build up the blood lining in your uterus. This is why sometimes like your breasts feel sore before you start your period. When you don't get pregnant, when there's not, a fetus, a baby that attaches anywhere in your uterus, then the progesterone levels drop, and then that's when you start your period. So anyway, so with the ovaries, there you go. So they sit right down in your pelvis, and you have the 2 ovaries, which are the actual glands we're talking about. So here's one of them. So here's one ovary, and here's the other. So you usually have 2 of them. That little yellow ball in there, that's the corpus luteum. So that helps kind of stimulate the egg release. And then when the egg is released, it travels up here through the oviduct. That's your fallopian tubes. And then it travels on down into your uterus. So again, if it has been fertilized, if it is a baby, it will implant and grow. And these, we'll talk a little bit more about estrogen and progesterone because they also help with kind of keeping your pregnancy going forward. If not, then your body the egg just leaves the body with the period, the blood flow. Okay, so that's the female. And then in the male, you have testes. And so males typically have 2 testes. So this is kind of 1/2. And you have the scrotum, which is the outside. It just kind of holds the testes. But the testes itself will produce testosterone. And this helps stimulate growth and then the development of the male secondary characteristics. So again, body hair, a deeper voice. Typically when a boy hits puberty and starts to develop testosterone, you can also see like muscle development kind of increase. I forgot to say it with the females, but also during this time you see like skin changes, acne and all that kind of stuff because of oil glands being kind of stimulated. And so this helps also for a male, just like with the female and potential pregnancy. This helps when the male is developing sperm and then the production of the fluid for semen and all that kind of stuff. And so again, these the sex hormones are typically turned on by the pituitary gland at a certain age, and that's what we know as puberty. Okay, now the pineal gland. So it is again right there, kind of in the middle. you can kind of see on this one where the pituitary gland is, and then you've got the hypothalamus there. And the pineal gland is, and I've also heard it pineal, produces melatonin. So this helps regulate your sleep and your wake cycles. This is kind of a big deal. Again, you need to sleep, and so melatonin is released dependent on the light levels that you're being exposed to, you know, the amounts of dark and light that you have dealt with. And you know, there is I can't think of like man-made melatonin, there's a word, and that we can take that helps, you know, it can help you get sleepy. And this one is, again, just super important. Get some sleep. Okay, the thymus. The thymus is part of your immune system, and so the hormones that are produced there are thymopoietins and thymosins. These help you to develop your body to make T lymphocytes, helps develop your immune system, which are basically made of these T lymphocytes. And the T is from thymus, by the way. Notice that on these two pictures you have an adult and then a young child. The thymus is much larger in a child than it is in an adult because children have not been exposed to a lot of things yet. And so they're making a lot of T lymphocytes, a lot of, you know, the blueprints that are going into their immune system to help their body be ready for exposure to a certain illness or whatever. Well, once you reach a certain age, you've been exposed to a lot of things. And so your body doesn't need to make more T lymphocytes. It just needs to access the plans, the blueprints that you are keeping in your immune system. And so your thymus will shrink over time and become much smaller and play much less of an important role in your body. Things like vaccines and all that stuff, you know, we're of course talking a lot about that with COVID. Those are, you know, you're kind of manufacturing your exposure to these certain illnesses. And so you still have a thymus at whatever age you are, but it is much less work to do. Okay, so now a couple of other structures that you don't really think about, but that do produce some hormones. Your heart. Your heart produces atrial natriuretic factor, ANF. This helps to decrease blood volume. It helps work with your blood pressure, helps maintain your blood sodium concentration. And so your heart itself will release this, and so it keeps just keeps your heart beating more easily. The blood sodium concentration helps with you know, muscle contractions and cell functions. Your gastrointestinal tract, so your, you know, like your small and large intestines, they release multiple hormones that then cause your intestines or your stomach or whatever it is to make more digestive enzymes. Also helps to regulate blood flow to the GI tract to pick up more of these nutrients so they can be carried to the rest of the body. The placenta releases lots of hormones. Estrogen and progesterone are big ones that help to influence your pregnancy and help, you know, keep the baby growing at a healthy rate, and keep the, you know, like the nutrient levels up and good and all that kind of stuff. And so the placenta is another big one during pregnancy. Your kidneys will release erythropoietin, and this tells your blood marrow to increase the production of red blood cells. So remember, kidneys do a lot of things besides make urine, and one of them is to make sure your red blood cell count is where it should be. If it's not, then this erythropoietin gets released. And then finally, your skin releases cholecalciferol, and this helps to, again, with bone stuff, helps to stimulate the movement of calcium into the bones, into the body, and so prevents weak, soft bones. So this is kind of goes along with like the vitamin D that you get from being in the sun or get from, you know, that kinds of thing, and this will help you just avoid weak bones later on. Okay, I think I'm done. All right, so we will of course talk about all this stuff in class, so ask me questions.